Welcome to another episode of Washington in Focus. I'm your host, Tim Clauser, with the Center Square's Western Washington reporter, Spencer Pauly. Here to talk about one of your recent stories about a set of utility rate hikes that could be hitting Bellingham residents soon, increases as much as 40% over the next 3 years. Spencer, tell me a little bit about this and how much it's going to cost people in Bellingham.
Basically, the city of Bellingham has been deferring these payments for necessary work on public works infrastructure. We're talking about water pipelines, sewage pipelines, and this deferment has led to what's going to be a pretty big increase in utility fees for like your average homeowner over the next 3 years. So currently in 2025, the average homeowner pays about $130 towards all utilities. Now, that's going to increase next year by 12.7%. So you're going to pay, that same homeowner is going to pay about $152 per month on average. And it's going to increase again in 2027 and 2028, where you'll finally see that average monthly bill go up to $172. So that is about a $55 increase from now until 2028, all just to fund, basically, Tim, these capital projects that the city desperately needs.
So what does that come out to? I mean, what are they paying now? I mean, you mentioned $135. That's about $55 around there per month increase. I mean, how is that going to hit residents? Do you know much about like the poverty rate, what that is? And
I don't have the exact numbers, Tim, but this is a city that's not on the scale of Seattle. The minimum wage isn't the same. So that $130 is a lot already. And this is something that Bellingham City Council members have already talked about. Hannah Stone mentioned it during Monday's Public Works Committee meeting, saying this is going to be a heavy lift for the community. And the reason is because the sticker shock is so great. And in the past, that sticker shock was so large that the council and the city just kept deferring it because they didn't want to implement this increase in utility rates on the residents. So it is going to be burdensome, and that's something that the city acknowledges. So Public Works said in a study memorandum that the recommended rate increases that we're seeing, that over 40% increase, Tim, that's the least burdensome among the viable actions. So this is what they're saying with their hands up, saying this is the best we can do. So get ready. Now, that is a good point, Tim, as I'm thinking about this.
I've heard other areas refer to that trend as kicking the can down the road, where, you know, you have a problem that needs solving, but it costs too much right now to fix. So we'll make it someone else's problem until it reaches this kind of breaking point where, look, now current residents are going to have to pay for all the problems that other residents put off. Now, you mentioned that this was the least burdensome option. What other things could the city have done other than just this utility rate increase, or what was on the table?
Well, basically, they said they could have kept deferring this, or they could have cut costs on some of their capital programs. Now, Tim, this is what this is basically funding the majority of. So, for instance, the sewer capital projects, the city has about 100-year-old pipeline, and it needs to be replaced. Once you hear that 100-year-old mark, you need to replace that. So capital costs over the next decade for sewer needs is $233.6 million over the next 10 years. Now, you're going to need to fund that somehow, and that's through these utility fees. And that's not just sewage, but it's also water pipelines need to be fixed because they're also aging. And the cost for water capital projects is also $246.8 million over the next 10 years. So you need it. It's gotten to the point where it has to be fixed, and you need that much money. We're not talking Seattle, revenue. We're talking Bellingham. So that's a lot of money when we combine that for over $500 million over 10 years. And so it becomes between increasing rates now or having to face the consequences later, where you're going to have to increase rates even more just to find any kind of funding at a quicker rate.
Yeah, it looks like the city put off increasing these rates for so long. I mean, with these increases, are they going to be able to continue to pay these costs moving forward? Or are they going to get 3 years down the line and say, hey, inflation's hitting us and we raised rates a bunch 3 years ago, but then they've kind of sat stagnant the last few years? I mean, is there other increases baked into this plan that they haven't approved or are still mulling over?
Well, I want to answer one part of your question because you brought up, well, it's how are we going to help the people that this is too much of a burden, right? And so Bellingham already has a utility customer assistance program, and it allows a 10% discount to just a very small number of eligible customers. I believe this is low-income households with seniors or disabled adults. Now, with this increased utility fee, some of that fees, I believe about $1 to $2 per monthly fee goes towards this program. And what you're going to see is an expansion, which just allows basically low income households to be eligible. I believe it's 80% of the area median income. I don't know off the top of my head what that is, but now you're going to see more people eligible to have that discount. And not only is it just a 10% discount, it goes up to 25%. So this is just the city's way of saying, we understand how burdensome this is. And so for the people that are really going to get hit, they're going to have to go into this program. Now, we're going to have to see how that works because this program hasn't been expanded yet. But once this fees go in, you're going to see probably a flood of people going to try to sign up for this. And hopefully they get it, because it is a big increase here. We're talking to him for monthly fees.
So Public Works is saying, look, we know this is a lot, but for the people that it's going to hit the hardest, here's a discount where we can give it.
Yeah, but the median income, or your median income folks and high income are still going to just have to suck it up and pay.
Yeah, just to provide some extra context, I just looked up some of that census data I was asking about before. And just for reference for the audience, I mean, looking at Bellingham, the median household income, for looking at the state, you're looking at about $94,000 a year, give or take. I mean, in Bellingham, that goes down to $65,000 about. So that's about a difference of $30,000, median for the median household. And looking at the poverty rate, I mean, Washington State sits at about 10.3% currently. And then Bellingham, you have 18.3%. So the poverty rate is notably higher in Bellingham. These rate increases will hit them. And at the same time, looking at the census data, about 40% or so, of the households are owned by the people living in them. So that means you have a lot of people renting in Bellingham. I mean, the Western Washington University is there. You have a lot of young adults that these rates are also going to fall back onto, that they'll have to figure out how to pay.
Right.
So appreciate you covering this issue, Spencer, and we'll be sure to keep our eyes on it moving forward. But thank you, everyone, for joining us for another episode of Washington in Focus.